Students found each had multiple stab wounds. Some had defensive wounds, showing they fought with the attacker. And there was no sexual assault. County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt is describing the murders as personal.
Hey everybody, welcome to What's the Obsession. My name is Kelly and I'm the creator of this channel that covers a number of true crime cases, a range of true crime cases and issues of justice and relationships. You know, all the things that humans like to talk about. Today's video is going to be about the University of Idaho tragedy that took the lives of Kelly Gonsalves, Madison Mogen, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. So today, September 29th, 2023, there are a lot of things that we believe that we know about this case. When you really start to think about it, it's like, what? Where did I even get that information? Where did I hear that? Is that even real? Or, oh, gosh, I'm not even sure. So many things have been said about this case. And as we all know, a gag order has been in effect since January 5th, 2023, making real information about this case very hard to come by. So let me give you an example. So, well, it's one of the big ones. Did law enforcement actually say that one of the doors to 1122 King Road was left open? I have heard and seen in, by reading Reddit posts or whatever it may be, so many people debate this topic. Well, we're going to find out the answer to that question in just a couple moments, because in this video, we are going to look back at some of the initial reports that announced to the world something horrible had happened in Moscow, Idaho. So these are the news reports from November 13th, 2022, November 14th, 2022, the initial reports from law enforcement and some of the initial reports from other organizations or even just people close to the tragedy and close to the investigation. Now, initial reports, both have their pros and cons. I guess the con would be when you're trying to release breaking news, you don't put the information through a heavy editing process. And this in itself is both good and bad, right? So sometimes the information comes out a little bit raw, and at times a little later on, the facts need to be adjusted just a little bit, right? But on the other hand, information that comes out in initial reports, I think especially when it's coming from law enforcement, has a very real, raw, and authentic quality to it that gives us a lot of insight into either what's going on in the investigation or what the heck happened in the first place. So first, let's take a look at some excerpts from the first press conference that law enforcement held, which was on November 17th, 2022. Now, during this press conference, Chief James Fry himself even said, yeah, maybe I should have been standing up here a couple days earlier, meaning he should have addressed the community and the world a little sooner than he did. But we're going to give Chief James Fry a break because this was his first time addressing, well, global audience, right?
How many were there?
We believe 2.
A little more information on the forced entry. There's no sign of forced entry, but was the door, did it seem like any of the entries were left unlocked by any means?
I'll answer the last part there just because it's at the front end of my mind. We're not 100% sure if the door was unlocked, but there was no damage to anything, and the door was still open when we got there.
Well, there you have it. So yeah, law enforcement did indeed say that. So my understanding is that he is talking about this door, the door that would lead into the first floor of the 1122 King Road residence, the first floor on which only roommate Bethany Funk had a bedroom. Is that your understanding of his statement as well? And if he is referring to this door, why do you think it was left wide open? It is also my understanding that when the 2 surviving roommates and the other people who were in the house when just before the 911 call was made and when the 911 call was made, those individuals exited out the sliding glass door, which makes sense as the victims were on the 3rd floor and the 2nd floor. And, you know, what caused them to flee the house was finding the horrific scenes that existed in the 2nd floor and 3rd floor bedrooms. So it doesn't really make much sense that they would then run down the stairs to the 1st floor, down that narrow stairway, and then all run out the 1st floor door, the one that I think was left wide open. It makes much more sense, since they were on the 2nd floor, that they all would have exited the premises through the 2nd floor sliding glass door. What do you guys think?
Oh, there were, sorry, I'm Emma Epperly with this Books Interview. Hi. So there were other roommates who lived at that residence. Were the roommates home at the time of the attack?
There was other people home at that time, but we are not just focusing just on them. We're focusing on everybody that may be coming and going from that residence.
It's really remarkable how many times the press asks about the 2 roommates during this press conference, other than asking about the suspect himself. It is definitely the question that is at the top of all of their minds.
So since they were home, was it a hostage situation?
No, it was not.
And then they didn't call it into police, so were they injured?
They were not injured, but like I said, we're still following up with everybody that could have been in that area.
One other follow-up. I know you said when the call came in, it was for an unconscious person, and also that was a stabbing. It seems, just from an outside perspective looking in, like that would be not the first thing a person calling in would think.
You're right, but the report that we got was that it was an unconscious individual. It wasn't until our officers arrived on scene, went in to do caregiving check on the individual who was unconscious, that we found the scene that we found.
From an NPR news report dated November 13th, 2022, this is what it reads. Brian Nickerson, a fire chief of the Moscow Volunteer Fire and EMS Department, said police were first to arrive at the home. The first responders from the fire and EMS department didn't go inside or transport anyone from the scene, Nickerson said. So many people have believed that this speaks to the horrific nature of the crime, and also clearly the fact that it was obvious to first responders when they arrived that there were going to be no survivors at that point.
Just to follow up on what she asked, so the other 2 roommates were there at the time of the attack?
All the information that we have from our investigation is that yes, they were.
Okay, but they were unhurt.
That is correct.
So is there any explanation as to why it took so long then for someone to call 911? You have surviving witnesses to an incident at 3 or 4 in the morning, and the 911 call didn't come until noon?
I don't think I ever said that they were witnesses. I said they were there. So, you know, we don't know why that call came in at noon and not in the middle of the night. Would have we loved for that to have happened? Yes, but that's not how it took place. So that's why we're investigating everything still, to try to pull all the pieces together.
Were they one of the people, were they the 911 caller?
At this point in time, I'm not going to divulge who our 911 caller is, just because I want to keep the integrity of the investigation at this point, okay?
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tim with the
But
Daily
rather,
Evergreen. I was just
one
wondering,
of the roommates, Bethany
were
Funk,
the two other
lived or had a
individuals
bedroom on the
present at
first
home
ground
when
floor
police
of
responded at noon?
1122 King Road, as pictured here. And the other roommate, Dylan Mortensen.
Chief, if you don't mind
actually lived
elaborating
on
a
the
bit
second
more
floor, the
on
main
those
floor, the
those
floor that
two
all-
people.
all
Was
of
it
the
two
living
people?
space,
What
including the living room,
have those people
the
shared
kitchen,
about
the
the
kitchen with
circumstances of
sliding
that
glass
night?
door
What
that
they
went out to
saw
a
or
little
didn't see?
patio, and
Well, I'm
Xana
not going
Canola's bedroom,
to go into
as
what
well
they shared
as her own.
that night. Obviously, that's part of our investigation. That's part of the information that we're trying to build our complete story with. So as far as that goes, we're not going to go any further into what they know and what they don't know.
How many were there?
We believe 2.
But rather, one of the roommates, Bethany Funk, lived or had a bedroom on the first ground floor of 1122 King Road, as pictured here. And the other roommate, Dylan Mortensen, actually lived on the second floor, the main floor, the floor that all of the living space, including the living room, the kitchen with the sliding glass door that went out to a little patio, and Xana Canola's bedroom, as well as her own.
This hour, we are tracking breaking news. Just a moment ago, Moscow police confirmed 4 people were found dead in a home just steps away from the University of Idaho campus. Right now, we're continuing to work to get more details tonight. We know that students were ordered to shelter in place for a time this afternoon because of the scene's proximity to campus. That order has been lifted. Creme 2 crews traveled down to Moscow as reports came in earlier today. We go now to Janelle Finch, and she was one of the first reporters on scene to talk with police and with neighbors in the area. Janelle.
I've been here in Moscow on scene since about 3 p.m. Since I've been here, I've watched Moscow police cars come in and out of this neighborhood, where officials found 4 people dead. Neighbors say they began noticing police cars flood the area around 12 p.m. today. Moscow police say they responded to a call here on King Road for an unconscious individual. Upon further investigation, officials found 4 people dead. While police investigated the scene, the University of Idaho enacted a shelter-in-place alert as university officials reported a homicide near campus. As we've stated, that alert is lifted at this time. Neighbors say most people living in this area are a part of U of I Greek life or are students, but we do not know the identities of those involved or who lives at the residence. Officials are investigating. This is a very much developing situation, and we will continue to stay on the grounds until we have more information to report back to you. Until then, in Moscow, Janelle Finch, Creme 2 News.
Thank you so much, Janelle. And Creme 2 will stay on scene in Moscow throughout tonight, and we'll continue to bring you an update coming up during our 6 o'clock newscast. Thank you so much, Janelle.
So we turn to our Amanda Rowley, who has been at the crime scene all day today. She shared with us earlier that there has been a lot of activity there today. So Amanda, what have you seen today?
Well, at this hour, the crime scene remains very active. This is the most active I've seen in the last few days. Right behind me, we have the Idaho State Police forensics team inside the house. And just within the last hour, I'm not sure if you can see from this angle, but we do want to give some privacy. One of the top floor windows, the blinds have now been open. We can see from a different angle some of the forensics team coming in and out, some wearing plastic white suits, taking photos. Earlier in the day, I did see some flashes, what appeared to come from a camera from inside the home. They're spending all day here collecting evidence and reassessing the home here. Now, earlier today, this afternoon, I did notice the back sliding door to the house was opened at one point today. Now, we could see red markings stuck to the frame of the door. Idaho State Police spokesperson Aaron Snell told me this afternoon it was believed that the potential suspect came through the sliding glass door. But again, there appeared to be no signs of forced entry. Now, he says, again, that forensic team is reassessing the house, looking for any potential additional evidence. In the meantime, he gave me an update on efforts to recreate a timeline of events and how the public will be a huge help in this investigation.
We understand the public's frustration about not being provided a lot of information. We are working to the best of our ability to actually provide as much as possible. We intend to come out and solicit information from the public if they are within certain areas that we believe are of interest for this investigation. And so hopefully today or early tomorrow we will come out with a map where the victims were at specific times during the night and ultimately ending at their residence.
Now, we also confirmed today the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit is also assisting with the case. They do a variety of things, including crime analysis, create profiles of unknown offenders, offer investigative suggestions, and help with interview strategies there. And ISP is also expecting FBI command vehicle to arrive in Moscow to provide more workspace and additional resources for the investigation. Now, at this time, ISP says the roommates who were at the home during the attack but were not injured are cooperating with investigators, and right now they are not suspects. They are not considered persons of interest, but ISP says no one is being ruled out in this investigation. Tonight, Snell is insisting that no one has been cleared from this investigation. Giving a quick look back here at this, again, a very active scene with forensics team on scene. Now, just in the last hour, we did get an update from the Latah County Coroner's Office. She weighed in a little bit more on that report that we received with the cause and manner of death. She can't speak right now to the defensive wounds. She doesn't know if the victims were asleep, and the time of death, she says, was sometime early in the morning. Again, they can't specify exactly what time of death because Kathy Mabbitt says it was reported many hours later. And at this point, the coroner says there is no way of knowing who was attacked first. We'll be keeping an eye on this scene through the rest of the week. For now, we'll send it back to you, Mark and Whitney.
All right, Amanda, good information. Thank you very much.